Glassmaking in Vilnius, a monopolised market and a headache for the forefathers of environmentalism.
Try to imagine what the world might have been like without glass. Homes with no windows, churches without stained glass, beer without bottles. Our ancestors once actually lived that way.
The first glass windows appeared in Lithuania around the reign of King Mindaugas. Back then, for another 300 years or so, they were a luxury afforded only by the rich, the people who built churches, castles and masonry homes. More mass-produced glass emerged only in the early 16th century, when we know for sure that at least one glass factory existed in Vilnius. Its owner was John, the Bishop of Vilnius. One fine day, it seems he decided it was difficult to reconcile working for both God and commerce, so he bequeathed his workshop to another John, a master craftsman from Poland, Jan Pilecki. This factory operated on the banks of the Neris River, not far from where Green Bridge stands today. By taking over the guild, Jan Pilecki promised to produce a certain amount of chalices, goblets and window glass for the bishop every year, and anything else he decided to produce was up to him.
The workshops thrived, and Jan's son Martin was even more successful. He was able to secure privileges from Sigismund Augustus, ruler of Poland-Lithuania. This was essentially a contract whose terms would be considered extremely advantageous by today's businessmen. Every year, Master Martin was required to produce 200 large and 200 small pieces of blown glass for the ruler. After that, he was allowed to produce what he wanted and could enjoy a trade monopoly in Vilnius. As for pricing, he was bound by one requirement only: that prices be appropriate and decent. This is a direct quote, and there were no profit taxes. Not surprisingly, Master Martin soon became Lord Martin, ruling over several estates and 4,500 hectares of land. In Vilnius, he produced window panes, bottles, stemware, drinking glasses, and other items. His shop operated out of his own two-story brick home in the city centre. Care to guess what that street is called today? It's not actually that hard to produce simple glass, at least in theory. You take a bucket of sand, mix it with 2 buckets of ash, and then heat it all up in a hot kiln. That gives you liquid glass, from which you can make what you're able. Over time, however, glassmaking began to pose environmental problems. To use a contemporary term, enormous quantities of wood were burned in glass-melting kilns, requiring the cutting down of vast forests.
But merchants in Vilnius were more concerned by Martin Pilecki's monopoly. Merchants regularly complained to the city council, and some simply ignored any prohibitions and traded on the black market, with Prussian or Polish-made glass selling the most frequently. This contentious situation essentially resolved itself when, towards the end of his life, Martin Pilecki relinquished his special rights and bequeathed them to the city of Vilnius.